Okay, Year 3, make sure you've got your workbook open in front of you so you're ready to check yesterday's learning. On the first page, we needed to find the vertical and horizontal lines. Pause the video to see that you coloured in the correct lines. After that, we were looking at these paintings here and we needed to list all the horizontal lines, all of the lines that are parallel with the floor. Then you needed to list all of the vertical lines, all of the lines which were perpendicular to the floor. After that, we were looking for horizontal lines which were the same length. You could have said line AB is the same as line DC and line LM is the same length as line ON. Then we were doing the same thing but looking for vertical lines. You could have said line AD is the same length as line BC. You could have said line LO is the same length as line MN. I just want to point out this picture here. Line HI is a horizontal line, but it's not the same length as line KJ. And line IJ and line HK are the same length, but they are not vertical lines. They're not forming a perpendicular line with the floor. Today, Year 3, we are going to be describing two-dimensional shapes or 2D shapes. These are shapes with 2 dimensions, length and width. Here are some examples. So 2D shapes are flat shapes that we cannot hold. To help us describe the 2D shapes, we're going to be using some of the vocabulary that we have already learnt. Pause the video and see if you can explain the definition of each of these words. Let's have a go together. We're going to read the definition out loud. Let's start with parallel lines. These are 2 straight lines that do not, no matter how long they are drawn. Now let's say the definition for perpendicular lines. These are 2 straight lines that meet to make a. Yesterday we learnt vertical lines. Let's say the definition together. These are lines that are perpendicular to the floor. And finally, we know horizontal lines. Can you say the definition with me? These are lines that are parallel to the floor. Great job, Year 3. We are also going to use what we have learnt about angles to help us describe the 2D shapes. We know an angle is when 2 straight lines meet at a point. We know that we can name the angles based on their size. A right angle is an angle that's 90 degrees. An acute angle is smaller than a right angle, and an obtuse angle is greater than a right angle. You are going to need all of this vocabulary today to help you describe 2D shapes. Let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is see how many 2D shapes we can name. You're going to have 30 seconds to see if you can name all of the 2D shapes that are on the screen. I'm going to start the timer now. Off you go. You're about halfway there. Keep going. And stop. Let's check if you were correct. Here are the names of some 2D shapes. Did you get them correct? Were there any that you didn't know the name of? Just remind yourself now so you're ready to start describing them. On the screen, I have got a 2D shape. This shape is called a quadrilateral because it's got 4 sides. I would like you to pause the video and see if you can describe the shape. I've given you a reminder of some vocabulary you might want to use when you are describing this quadrilateral. So pause the video and have a go at describing the shape. Great job, Year 3. Let's have a go together at describing this quadrilateral. My friend from Maths No Problem has suggested we start by describing the angles in the shape. She says that there are 4 angles and we've named them to help us describe them. Angle A and angle B are right angles. And I can use my right angle measure to check this. It fits perfectly into angle A and perfectly into angle B. So we were correct. They are both right angles. Let's look at angle D. This angle looks greater than a right angle. So we call this type of angle obtuse. I can use my right angle checker again and I can see I was correct. It's larger than a right angle, so it is obtuse. Finally, we're going to look at angle C. Again, this does not look like a right angle. It looks smaller than a right angle. Can you remember the name? Correct! Angle C is acute because it's smaller than a right angle. Now we're going to describe the sides of the shape. We can see that there are 4 sides, which means it is a quadrilateral. My friend from Maths No Problem has suggested that we use letters to name the sides. This will mean we're able to describe them. I'm going to use different letters to my angles so I don't get confused. This side will be FO, this one OU, this one UR, and this one RF. Can you pause the video and see if you can describe the sides of the shape? Let's start by describing the perpendicular lines. My friend says that line FR is perpendicular to line FO. He is correct because they meet to make a right angle. Are there any other perpendicular lines? Well done. Line FR is perpendicular to line RU. Now we're going to look for parallel lines. Did you spot any? My friend says that line FO is parallel to line RU. She is correct because no matter how long I make these lines, they will never meet, so they are parallel. Well done, Year 3. Now that we've described the quadrilateral together, I would like you to describe these 3 shapes. Think about what type of angles there are and if you can see any parallel lines or perpendicular lines. Pause the video and describe each shape. Let's have a look at these shapes together and see if we can describe them. I'm going to start with the angles and I'm going to label them to help me describe them. I've got angle A, angle B, angle C and angle D. Do you notice anything about the way that I have labelled these angles? I've used a square because all 4 angles are right angles. Now we're going to look at the sides. I'm going to label them again to help me. So I'm going to have line MN, line NO, line OP and line PM. I can see that line MN is parallel to line PO and line NO is also parallel to line MP. So there are 2 sets of parallel lines. Are there any perpendicular lines? Correct. Line MP and PO are perpendicular. Line PO and NO are perpendicular. Line ON and MN are perpendicular. And line NM and PM are perpendicular. Great job, Year 3. Thank you for your help in describing this square. This shape is a rectangle. It's very similar to a square. I'm going to label the angles first, the same way I did with my square. And straight away, I notice that all 4 angles are right angles. Well done. They are all 90 degrees. Now I'm going to label the sides so I can describe the lines. Can you spot any parallel lines? Correct. The same as before, we have 2 sets of parallel lines. What about perpendicular lines? Again, we can see we've got 4 sets of perpendicular lines because we have 4 right angles. Great work, Year 3. We can notice that our description of the rectangle was the same as our description of the square. Now we're going to describe the triangle. Do you think it will be the same as the square and the rectangle? No, me either. I think it's going to be different. Let's start by labelling our angles. Angle A, angle B, and angle C. Angle A looks like a right angle, so I can leave that one as a square. To help me with angle B, I'm going to imagine that I have got my own right angle measure and do a line coming out here. I can see that angle B is smaller than a right angle, which means that it's acute. Let me do the same thing with angle C, and again it's smaller. So both angle B and angle C are acute. Now let's look at our lines. We're going to have line MN here, line NO here, and line OM here. Can you see any parallel lines? No, me either. But I can see that line OM and line NM are perpendicular. I've got 1 right angle and 1 pair of perpendicular lines. It's a good job that we are angle experts and line experts, because we've been able to use our learning to describe 2D shapes. In your workbook today, you're going to practice that on your own. On page 171, you need to describe the angles that are in the 2D shapes. First of all, count how many angles there are all together, and then write the name of each angle. On page 172, you're going to be describing the sides of the shape. Again, first you need to write how many sides there are, and then you need to say the names of the side and whether they are perpendicular or parallel. When you've done that, Year 3, your challenge for today is to go on a shape hunt around your house and draw the different 2D shapes that you spot. As an extra challenge, can you use some of the vocabulary we have learnt to describe the shapes you find? I'm going to put it up again at the end of the video so you can pause it and use it to help you if you need. Good luck, and I will see you tomorrow for even more learning.